Welcome back to the channel. I'm Austin, and today I'm going to be comparing the Mac-10 versus the Bullfrog and discussing which one is the best SMG in Warzone. It's one of the all-time favorites against the always underappreciated weapon. I'm going to go over the basic stats first, then give my opinion on which one you should use, and then give you the class setups at the end. If you enjoyed the video and learned something new, please hit the like button. We're going to start with the Mac-10's advantages over the Bullfrog, and the two things that stand out the most when you first use it is going to be its fire rate and movement. And basically we're going to start with the fire rate right now, and it has about a 400 advantage over the Bullfrog, but it doesn't only outclass the Bullfrog in this category, it's the fastest firing weapon in Warzone. And as I always say with fire rate, it's going to feel a lot nicer because it's a lot friendlier to TTK if you miss shots. And this basically just makes the Mac feel good no matter what your skill level is, whether you're good or a little bit more of a beginner at the game. The Mac's still going to feel really nice. And then we're going to move over to movement, and it's the fastest ADS, movement, and strafe of all SMGs. So this is really where it shines, where you can move in and out of buildings, in and out of corners, get to cover, out of cover. It's going to be the best here. And it has a pretty significant advantage on all of these over the Bullfrog. And now we're going to move over to its last two advantages that it has over the Bullfrog, and that is going to be with its range, but it's pretty minimal and not too significant. It's 15.5 meters for its max damage range versus the Bullfrog's 15, so I'm not really going to put too much weight in this half a meter. In this one, I don't really see it as a big deal. And finally, its last thing is the average KD of people who use the gun, and I got these stats off of warzonerank.com. And basically the Mac-10 is at a 106 compared to the Bullfrog's 102. And why the Mac-10 I believe has a higher KD is because, like I said, people who are low skilled are still going to be able to use this weapon pretty effectively, as well as high skilled players. All this means is that the Mac-10 being friendly to use is going to get the average KD up because the worst players aren't bringing it down as much, if that makes sense. If we have a gun like the C58 that requires medium to high skill versus the Mac that requires low skill, if a low skill player picks it up and tries to use it, they're still going to be able to get some kills with it, whereas a weapon with a little bit more recoil or not forgiving fire rate, like the C58, it's going to bring it down more. So that's why I think the Mac has the higher KD here. And then finally, I'm going to show you a little visual recap of where the Mac is better than the Bullfrog. Now let's move on over to the Bullfrog's advantages over the Mac-10, and we're going to start with one of the most important stats in Warzone, and that's going to be time to kill. And the Bullfrog close range, so 0 to 15 meters, actually is going to beat the Mac by just a tad. It's going to be 559 milliseconds for the Bullfrog compared to the Mac-10's 588, so that isn't a significant advantage, but it is one. But where the Bullfrog really shines is if you can get headshots with it in 0 to 15 meters. So if you get all 5 headshots to kill in 5 shots, 320 milliseconds to kill. Now that's probably never going to happen unless you're hacking. But let's see what is actually reasonable to get up close. 2 headshots, I think we can do that. So that's going to be 7 shots to kill, 479 milliseconds. So that even beats the Cold War MP5. So the Bullfrog's one of those weapons that requires a little bit more skill, but if you can aim well with it, you can really drop people quick. If you're hitting limbs and stuff, you're going to kill really slowly, so you have to make sure you're at least hitting center mass to get the good time to kill. And then from there, what's the recoil like? Well, the Bullfrog's recoil is actually better than the Mac-10's, mainly due to the fire rate. The Mac, if you don't have a bunch of attachments on it, it can kick up a bit, but since we're using both these weapons within 15 to 15.5 meters, it really isn't a big deal with recoil. You know, that's not something that I'm going to put too much weight in, just like the range of the Mac being a half a meter longer. But the Bullfrog is a little bit more of a high skill, medium to high skill I should say, weapon compared to the Mac-10. You don't have to be too good at the game. You can be a beginner and still use it pretty well. But from there, let's go on over to the other sections where the Bullfrog is going to be better. Now, if it's competing with time to kill and actually being a bit better than the Mac, but the Mac shoots way faster, obviously that means we're going to have a better damage per shot. So body shots for each of these weapons is 32 for the Bullfrog to 24 for the Mac up close. And from there, obviously the headshot multipliers, upper body multipliers are going to make that gap even wider. But what does that mean? We also have a 65 round mag in the Bullfrog for my suggested class versus the max 53 mag size. And so you got 12 more bullets and more damage per shot. So we already know we're going over to damage per mag, and the Bullfrog is going to win by a significant margin. And that's obviously going to be more useful the bigger the mode gets. Solos really doesn't matter how much damage you get per mag. Duos a little, trios even more, quads very important. So that's going to be a significant advantage in the bigger modes if you're partying up with a bunch of your friends. The Bullfrog might be a little bit easier to work around the damage per mag. And then from there, that is about all the advantages that the Bullfrog is going to have over the Mac-10, and I'm going to get you a little visual picture of those right now. Time for the verdict. The two most important qualities I find for SMGs is going to be movement and time to kill up close. And obviously the Mac and Bullfrog split those categories, with the Mac having the advantage of movement and then the Bullfrog having the advantage in time to kill. And my recommendation is split depending on the player and mode. So if you're lower skilled, I definitely suggest the Mac up to trios. And then if you are a little bit better at the game, probably above average, I would suggest the Bullfrog for duos to quads. And for me personally, I always value time to kill the most when it comes to SMGs because it can help you win gunfights over someone else using a weapon predicated on generally ease of use. And every meta has involved no recoil weapons because they're the most user-friendly and everyone can use them. So if you're going to have a weapon with a higher skill curve, they usually have a better time to kill, and that's why I prefer the Bullfrog over the Mac. We're going to be starting off with my recommended sub, the Bullfrog, and what we're going to be doing on this class is focusing on getting the movement speed up to compete with subs like the Mac. We're going to be making it an ADS build because accuracy is super important on this weapon to get the time to kill up with those headshots and upper chest shots. And then finally, we're going to be trying to increase that range from about 15 meters to about 20. And the first session we're going to go for, we'll tackle a couple of those things. We get effective damage range with the Groove Suppressor, as well as some recoil control to make it more accurate. The bullet velocity is probably the least important thing on this build right now because when you're only firing out to about 20 meters, the bullet velocity isn't too big of a deal, but you know, it's still a nice side benefit, I guess. And then from there, we're going to go to the barrel, and this one is going to be the 7.4 Task Force that gives us strafe speed, which is going to be really key because, as I said, this is going to be an ADS sub, not a hipfire one. So to be able to strafe faster while aiming down sights is going to be key, and it gets us extra range as well. And then we're going to move on over to the stock, which is going to be the KGB skeletal stock. And as you can see, ADS firing move speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire time, which is a really important stat on SMGs because obviously, usually with subs, you're going to be running around with it. So getting your weapon up and being able to fire as quick as possible is going to help you with those split seconds that's going to make you win gunfights by a hair. And then from there, we're going to go over to the ammunition, and this one you got a couple options. You could really stick with the 50 rounds and you're probably going to be fine up to trios, but I do think 65 rounds definitely would still be a nice help in trios and quads. Duos, you can definitely get away with 50 rounds though. But you don't want to go 85 rounds because as you see, this lowers our ADS, and that is a no-go on SMGs. And so from there, on the underbarrel, this is one where I kind of go different from other people. I really like the patrol grip. There's no cons to it. All it does is make our sprinting move speed faster, which I think is really nice because that does help us catch up to the Mac, so we aren't outsped quite as much there. We can move around the map in and out of cover a little bit better because I always think subs are really important for your getaway moments where you're in a really bad spot and you got to zig and zag and you got to get to cover. The extra sprinting move speed I think can really save you. But then from there, as I ignore that party invite, we're going to be going over to what we could switch out if we don't want to use the patrol grip or we want to just use the 50 rounds of ammunition. You can switch it up to a laser sight, so I'll just take off the patrol grip for now. You can switch it up to the laser sight and go with the Tiger Team Spotlight. That does give you movement speed and aim walking movement speed, which are two important things, but for me, I really don't like that the flashlight is visible to enemies because when you're going in buildings, that can really key on someone like noticing that you're coming up. So, I mean, it is a very beneficial attachment if you can get over the flashlight being shown. And if you're in duos, definitely just take off the 65 round mag and put on the oh man, my frames died. That's why I'm going all over the place. Oh, well, put on the patrol grip. Just ignore all that. I don't know what happened. I think it's the Xbox party invite, you know? On the PC, for some reason, it just drops my frames for no reason. But This would be the class setup I'd use in duos, and if we're in trios, I'd take off the Tiger Team Spotlight and put on the 65 round. And this sub is going to be great for aiming down sight. You're going to have really good strafe speed. You're going to have better movement because of this, and you're going to have about 20 meters of range instead of 15. Really easy to aim. Just make sure you're going for those upper chest headshots, and you're going to love this SMG. Now we're going to move on over to the Mac-10 build, and once you build one SMG in Warzone, you've pretty much built them all, at least for the close range subs. So we're going to be basically building the same loadout that we just did for the Bullfrog. We're going to be using the agency suppressor for the reasons mentioned last time. Damage range increasing, and we get the vertical recoil control. And then we go over to the task force for the extra damage range once again and the strafe speed. And then the only difference really we're going to have on this is that we're not going to be putting on the patrol grip because we don't need any extra sprinting move speed with the Mac-10 because its movement stats are already insane. So we're just going to end up using the Tiger Team Spotlight for the base movement speed and then the aim walking movement speed. That way we get the little strafe action up because really that's where the Mac has all of its advantages, is with all of its movement speed. So we're going to also increase the strafing right here once again and sprint to fire time. And then, of course, we need to add the 53-round stag nag here. And it does hurt your ADS slightly, but not too much. But you do need the extra bullets here because of the damage per bullet being pretty low. So the only reason it's time to kill is up there is because of its insane fire rate. So we need as many bullets in the clip as we can because the chamber really empties out quick. But that's going to be the class setup for the Mac. I really don't think I'd run it any other way, change any of the attachments out. But I guess since this is the easier to use weapon, and if you're lowered skilled, one way you can make the aim really easy is if you took off the Tiger Team Spotlight and then just added the Field Agent Grip. And then this thing will be an absolute laser and you can't miss any shots. So if you're having trouble aiming it, put on the Field Agent Grip instead of the Tiger Team Spotlight. But right here, this is my suggested loadout, and that's going to wrap up the whole video. I still suggest the Bullfrog over the Mac if you're adequate at the game, because of the extra time to kill benefits of getting the headshots. So both these subs are A tier within Warzone, and you're not going to be outclassed by anything else. It might be slightly lower than the Cold War MP5 because it's easy to use and you don't have to get all the headshots to get the really good time to kill, but both these weapons are great. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new in this video, and if you want to see maybe an AR to pair with these subs, I'll have a video linked up in the top right corner of the screen right now. And I hope you click on it, see what to pair with this, and please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this.